You know, I've been thinking, which is, I know, a very strange thing, but I've been ruminating. That's my new word for the week. Ruminating uh, uh, about control. Uh, and think of all the people that are unbelievers in the world, and I think unbelief expresses itself as just as I was considering this in one of two ways. The first one would be control, meaning that our identity is tied up or bound with other people, and their outcome is tied to our identity. And so we have a great deal of control over them. I think of those people in my life that I love the most, and it's very easy to get into a mode where we're just simply trying to decide every step that they take and every decision they make, and because we want to guarantee outcomes. Whether we realize it or not, that's the way the majority of the world works. It's control. It's just a human being doing what human beings do, unbelievers that are not expressing faith in God, neither his sovereignty nor his providence, uh, not trusting him, but trusting in the arm of the flesh, as it says there in Genesis or in Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 6. So what does it mean to us? Uh, it means that, in all honesty, that we as believers we give up control. I think it's interesting that Jesus Christ didn't dictate. He very easily could have manipulated Judas and provided for him some means of escape, if you will, or made sure it didn't happen. Uh, he could have manipulated things. I think if you look at there in Matthew chapter 26 and verse 39 and 42, that was the issue in the Garden of Gethsemane, not my will but thine. He could have manipulated things. Having the influence that he had, we've certainly all been around people that we've loved and cherished and who've had influence in our lives, that when they got a little off, they manipulated things. They manipulated people and circumstance to their own bent. Unbelief, when we drift into that, ends up in control. In Galatians 6:12, Paul said, look, there's people that want you to be circumcised because they want to make a show in the flesh. In other words, it looks good for them, and they don't have to suffer the persecution of the cross. It's easy when everybody does what we want them to do. But that isn't the way love operates, not the love of God that draws us. We're actually drawn by that love. It speaks of his loving kindness that draws us. The other thing that unbelief does, I think, is another element, is that unbelief expresses itself in indifference, meaning that it just simply doesn't care to care. And in a way, that's a form of control also. It's more of a self-control, meaning that let's put it that way, a selfish interest control. In other words, I don't have the time, and I don't have the need, or you're not worth my interest for me to give up anything. And if we do that, what we're doing is we're kind of avoiding the responsibility that we all have in Christ Jesus. That's one of the things that's very unique about us as believers, is that we're left here on this earth to be, as we've said so often recently, a kingdom of priests, believer priests. We have a ministry of intercession that we're supposed to participate in 1 Timothy 2 and verse 1 through 5. And we're supposed to be interceding for people in government, the people that are leaders in the world. Certainly, if at any time in our history current history, if that is necessary. Not that it hasn't been, but boy, it sure seems to be now with, what do they say, over 1 million people that have died in the Ukraine, not to mention the tens of thousands that have either been displaced or died in Gaza, in Israel. It's tragic. And that's just a portion of the world. So yes, we're here for that reason. We're here for when we drive by the circumstance and situations that we view in our city, to pray to God as believer priests for these people and for the leadership of this city, that somehow, in our state, that they'll come to their senses. But either way, we could be indifferent. We could say that, nothing I can do, or it has no impact on me. And in a way, that's another form of control. It's just selfish. Self-interest, let's put it that way, control. We're just taking care of ourselves, controlling what we want to be involved with or not. One of the beautiful things about being a Christian is that we can see the world through the eyes of Christ. Now, I'm not saying that we can see everything as he sees it, but I do believe when it speaks in 1 Corinthians 2 and verse 16 of having the mind of Christ, that we can see the moment as he sees the moment. I don't have foreknowledge. I can't see all of eternity. But I can see this moment by faith in Christ. And that person or that situation or my family, or extend that out, the news that I hear, those things that I hear about tragedies in various parts of our nation, whether it be California or whether it be North Carolina and Tennessee and other places, God gives me the ability and also the responsibility to bring these things before him. We're going to close with this, but the next devotion I want to talk about something that you would have heard on the Sunday before. But it has to do with the fact that there's only 2 altars in the tabernacle. I think that's very interesting. There's only 2. We'll talk about that next time. But think about, let's live our life, and we are not going to be either controlling. We're going to let God direct our steps, and we're going to let God work in the lives of others. And secondly, we're not going to be indifferent. We're not going to be so selfishly motivated that we just don't have time to care, because that's not why we're here, folks. Till next time, friends, God bless you.